in all your years of practice and study, who have been the mentors or the people you've looked up to or
Oh,
given
wow.
you support along the way?
That's such a great question because there's so many out there, and there's mentors that I can connect with, like, through their online teachings or their
Mhm.
book teachings that I might not ever know or
Right.
talk to personally. There's teachers out there that I might have a spiritual connection with and a discussion with that might have been ancestors.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
man.
there might be a teacher that I actually follow and go to be in their presence and actually have interactions with them.
Yeah.
And then there's my inner teacher that I get to talk to all the time that helps me make the right decisions every day.
Mm.
So, with that context around the word teacher, I could go into quite a few different areas there. But the ones that one of the godfathers is a man named Jon Kabat-Zinn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jon Kabat-Zinn. I told you, I think on the phone that I did his mindfulness-based stress reduction program.
yeah,
That was one of my introductions. Headspace was also one of them, but going through the MBSR
yeah.
and Jon Kabat-Zinn was really a real deep dive for me. I did the 8 weeks,
Yeah.
45 minutes a day, writing, all that
That's
stuff.
and he's the real deal, and that's the real deal course you took, the MBSR. So I actually went to a week-long retreat with him and Saki Santarelli, his kind of right-hand person, back in 2012, I'm thinking. It was about north of 10 years ago. And at the time, I was just wanted to go see him. But the topic of it was I kind of phrase it. So you think you want to be an MBSR teacher? Come hang out with me for a week and let me tell you what it's all about, and then you can decide.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. So at that time, I left there, and I was going, "Nah, I'm just not ready to be a teacher." And now I am, and that's why I'm going into it. But I always carry this memory. But the experience I had there was just classic mindfulness challenge because my son was heavy in his addiction, and which I asked him the other day. I says, "Can I share this publicly?" And he says, "Sure, anything that'll help anybody." And but he was in his addiction. He was a heroin addict, and he was just really acting out. And I thought I was going to go to this mountaintop meditation experience with the guys, Jon Kabat-Zinn and
Yeah.
his and I thought I was just going to bliss out and have a great time. Well, as soon as I got there, it became really evident that I couldn't get any of this out of my mind, and I was having horrendous recursive thoughts around all the stuff that could happen to my son. And I couldn't get my son at the time, he was 17 years old. I couldn't get my son out of my brain. Actually, I think yeah, he was 16 or 17 at the time. And so we went into this period at the midweek till Friday of total silence. So I call my wife and his mom, and I said, "I'm going into a silent period. I can't really talk for the next 2 days, but I'll check in." So at noon on Friday, and at noon on Friday, bing, get a text. It's from my wife at the time, and she goes, our son is." No, she says, give me a call." And at that time, anytime that happens, it wasn't good. So I call her. He had been arrested for heroin possession, and so, but I had just experienced this whole week of mindfulness, and that was the most peaceful, most thoughtful reaction period I ever had. We went home. We knew we had him in the bag, so to speak. He wasn't going anywhere, and he pretty much had to agree to a healthy path out of there. And then we found him a recovery center to go into, and he went into it. And for that period of time, it brought him back out of his addiction.
Mm.
But it was just that clarity of thought and that experience that really started to keep me engaged. I knew it was there. I just wasn't ready to teach it at that particular time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jon Kabat-Zinn,
Yeah.
who any other comes to mind?
Yeah, thanks for that, and thanks for the little divergence on the story.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that story.
Yeah, my 2 teachers right now in the certification program I'm in are, Jack Cornfield and Tara Brock.
Oh yeah.
They are OG all the way.
Yeah,
They've been
Spirit Rock.
they are Spirit
Yeah.
Rock. They have been doing the deal. Jack's at Spirit Rock. Actually, Tara's at,
In
in
Philadelphia
Washington.
or somewhere?
In Washington, outside of DC.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, she's Insight Meditation Society as well. So those 2, I mentioned Henry Schuckman. He's, relatively new on my scene. I've been doing more of a dive into Zen and Tao the last, couple of years. And, who else?
Shaka Shapiro. Shapiro?
Yeah, I've followed her. I would call myself a real kind of a podcast and meditation junkie.
Yeah.
I have listened to dozens of teachers on Insight Timer over the years, and
I'm a big Thich Nhat Hanh fan, Pema
Thich
Chodron.
yeah, Pema Chodron.
When I was younger, Eckhart Tolle for a while.
Yeah, the Fire Now and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much out there, and for me, it's been an exploration of traditions, and I've explored Buddhism in depth. I've explored the Tao and Zen Buddhism, which is
Mhm.
basically Buddhism plus Tao equals Zen, if you want to think of it that way, because Zen is the tradition of Buddhism coming through China and picking up the Tao along the way.
Mm.
So, I've studied some Hinduism. Studied Christian mysticism. So I think all faiths have really good depth to them, and they each one in their own way has that culture's imprint on what this thing called suffering and alleviating suffering is.
Yeah.
And I love them all. I don't really find one teacher. I think maybe it's part of the ADD, the neurodivergent, as we say.
Oh, ADD. Yeah.
The neurodivergent mentality is that we seek a lot of different views, and we tend to coalesce them way better than a linear thinker might. Yeah,
Yeah. And I like to think it's kind of the same message through a different face and through different words, and I need to hear it in a lot of different ways.
yeah,
I've often thought of there's this group of people that have found this body of wisdom
yeah,
somewhere, and they're bringing it back. Some of them in cups, some of them in buckets, some of them bringing you know, whole swimming pools full or tanks full, and they're giving it to everybody. But I think people found that wisdom
yeah,
somewhere,
yeah,
and I hear it. I know it in my body when it's true, and I
yeah.
follow those people, whether it's Byron Katie or whether it's
She's good.
there's just so many of them.
Yeah,
I like Michael Singer,
yeah, yeah.
Tethered Soul.
Kelly, Adyashanti.
Oh
There's
yeah.
so many people out there that have their take on it,
Mhm.
and for the longest time, I tried to. I kind of felt like I just needed more takes,
Oh yeah.
and now I'm in the sense of I'm really just resting in my own take, and
Yeah.
and I don't have to seek it so much. I found that it's easier for me now to pick a few and go deep with them rather than to do the sampler platter approach. But God knows I've done lots of sampling.
I think of that quote, that koan. If you see the Buddha on the side of the road,
Kill them.
kill the Buddha. Yeah, that way of, your master is not out here outside of you. It's
Yeah,
inside of yourself.
it
And
is.
your own guides are inside, and that cultivating intuition and finding that voice within yourself is a big part
Yeah.
of the journey.
And I also advocate and am enthusiastic around different modalities of therapy because it's a different way to explore. My most recent one has been internal family
Oh
systems.
yeah.
That is really helped me find, my inner voice and which inner voice is which, and how to talk to amongst my inner voices so that we have a little, kind of a come to Jesus agreement, as my dad would say, and kind of get some agreement on how the day's going to go.
Doing that parts work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, it's all kind of intertwined, but I think once people, I think once I've had all this chance, and all I hope to impart, as a teacher is just to create space so everybody can have their own chance. It's not me about teaching them and giving them the words. They have to experience them themselves.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you can point at the moon,
Mhm.
don't focus on the finger.
Exactly.
Gotta
Exactly.
find some way to get them to focus on that moon together. All
Yeah.
look at the moon together.
Exactly. It's the experience. It's not the pointing. Yeah.
Experience is my teacher.
Yeah. Exactly.